Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sarah Martin with The Contoured Chemist. It's Get Ready With Me Day because we have a new shade of the month. So let's do a look inspired by our new shade of the month. This is a brand new shade we've never had before with Seint's 3D foundation. Her name is Audrey. So we're gonna be using Audrey, and I'm gonna be honest, this is not an easy color for me to wear personally because of my skin tone. So I'm going to show you a few tips and tricks on what if you try a color, it's not working for you. All the ways you can wear it, ways you can tweak it. It might just be an application thing so that you can wear any shade you like. So if you want to check out a nice spring look with the new shade, Audrey's shade of the month, keep watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, thanks for being here. Okay, friends, I just sat down. I haven't done anything. The only thing I have on my face is my sunscreen. I have on my favorite glow screen SPF. Wear your SPF. May is Melanoma Awareness Month, so wear your sunscreen every day. I'll get off my soapbox. If you are wondering where part 2 of my weekly skincare regimen is, I promise it's coming next week. I know so many people were wanting to see this shade, and I wanted to give you guys time since I just got it. Unfortunately, artists aren't given the new shades of the month. We have no idea. They drop on the 1st of every month, just like it does for customers. And if it's a brand new shade, we don't have it yet. Had to wait for mine to get here, and I don't know why the mail to me from Seint is always slower than anywhere else in the country. I don't know what it is. Everyone always gets stuff before me here in Missouri. So I got my Audrey. So I'm going to do a get ready with me so you guys can see the shade while it's still available. I don't want anyone to miss out. So I promise part 2 on the skincare, my night regimen, is coming next week. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I am going to use a lip plumper. I feel like my lips just look puny today. Need a little bit of extra help. So this is the City Lips. It definitely plumps your lips. I'll be honest. It makes my lips turn bright red, so I don't use it very often. You'll see I'll have to color correct around my lips in order to use it, but it will plump. So eyeshadow primer, thank me later. So what kind of look should we do today? I feel like a lot of times when it comes to my foundation, I do it based on my skin. And as you can tell, I'm breaking out a little bit. So usually on good skin days are the days I pick up my blend brush. I do very light coverage because I love that glowy skin-like look for spring. But I think I'm gonna need a little extra help today. Since it's obviously hormones are creating havoc on my face, I think I'm gonna do a little bit of a medium coverage today because that is what's needed. So let's go ahead and get started with some foundation. So I got my eyes primed, my lips a-plumping, and I already washed my perfector and have her ready. She's a she, of course. Have her drying out. So I get asked all the time, like, how often you should wash your perfector. One of the easiest ways is if you are getting this wet every morning before you sit down to start your makeup, just use a little bit of soap and wash it while you're dampening it. That way, it's always free of bacteria anytime it touches your face. I like to use Dawn dish soap. Lately, I've been using that power spray. Have you guys tried that? I love that. So I just kind of spray it down. I mean, it's like, I feel like the liquid concentrate definitely gets the stains out better, but I feel like this is at least killing the bacteria. So I spray it down and then I just squeeze it out and until it runs clear, no more soapy suds. And then I'm gonna sit it out to dry. So I got every last drop of water out. I squeezed it out in a towel a few times as well. So it will be good to go by the time I get to that step. I forgot to fuse my lashes, and I can tell one of them is wonky because it is bothering me. So I'm gonna give them a quick squeeze. I tried some new ones last week and I went back to my old standby because these just feel so much lighter on my eyes. So these are the SB 16s. SB, yes, B as in boy. Okay, let's go ahead and start with some foundation. And I am not gonna use Bella yet. And I'm gonna explain why when I get to the Audrey step, okay? Because that is a great trick for this type of shade. So we're just gonna do foundation as normal until we get to the blush step. I'm skipping bronzer until after, and we're gonna use as needed, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and pick up, let's see, I'm still gonna pick up the blend brush because I've been loving this side for my detail color correction. So when it comes to color correcting your face, really pay attention to, like, if I color matched you, how I marked up your face, and make sure you're applying your color corrector to those areas, because I mark up the darkest points of your face for a reason, so that you understand that those are darker and you have to use your corrector there to get good longevity. So a lot of times when I'm troubleshooting with clients, they come back and they're like, well, I'm just putting it right here. I'm like, well, but you have to put it on every spot I marked because those are all the same depth. And I feel like it's one of those things I never looked at until I became an artist. And I know I never realized about my own face. I never knew my nose was darker until I started using this makeup. So I'm trying to help you guys out there. So one of the biggest things about longevity with these creams is making sure we hit the darkest points first. And you're just gonna get a much smoother application, longevity, coverage, all of the things at the same time, okay? And when you're color correcting, you don't just wanna kind of like tap in and swipe on to where you can actually see it. You really wanna make sure you are buffing in that cream to that entire area until you can no longer see that makeup. Does that make sense? If you're applying it too heavy to any one spot, you're gonna see it and it's gonna be really hard for you to then use your main shade and not be able to see that depth underneath. Does that make sense? I feel like once you figure out how much color corrector to add, it's suddenly like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I need very little and I'm gonna get amazing coverage. But it's that beginning step of knowing like, okay, how much do I dip in? How much do I buff on? All of that. Do you see how red my lips have gotten? I have heard so many people are obsessed with that lip gloss and wear it like all day. There's no way I could go around my lips looking like this all the time. It's just not a look I like. Maybe some people, maybe it doesn't do that to everyone. Have you guys tried it? Definitely does it to me. In fact, sometimes I put like a lip balm on first so it doesn't pull my lips as red. I mean, it still does, but not quite as bad. Okay, so broken capillaries, hyperpigmentation, mustache. I've got a few spots around here and I'm just buffing on. So we have a thin layer. It's gonna kind of color correct and I can always go back if it's sticking out with more. But this first step is really thin, really small amounts, really buffed into the skin. I'm not just gonna place it there and see that it's darker and looks orange. You really gotta work it in. Makes a huge difference. Okay, color correct my eyelids. Okay, same thing goes with around the eyes. really work it into the inner corners. Otherwise, you can kind of see it sitting there. Okay, and then got to be a little bit more gentle underneath the eyes. That's definitely, at least my eyes, the skin moves a lot. So we're gonna kind of tap it on so we're not pulling, okay? But by just tapping over and over again, it will also blend that out so it's not just looking really dark and heavy around the eyes as well. And I do the same thing because I've got hyperpigmentation through here. I'm just gonna tap, okay? You can see how much better coverage I already have on this side than this side. And then repeat. Okay, since my lips are already driving me crazy, nothing mango can't handle. Okay, put a little bit more right there, that dark spot, kind of build that up. Okay, now I'm gonna put down the blend brush and I'm gonna pick up the blush brush because I wanted a little bit more coverage, but I'm still gonna be very light-handed with it, okay? So that means we're not swiping, we're just barely dabbing in one time, okay? Then I'm going to just kind of press to distribute that along each area. Okay, and I don't wanna move that color I just placed, so we're just kind of bouncing over the skin. And again, by pressing, you also are gonna be blending out. You can't just like touch it once and think that's gonna blend it. But if you keep going over that area, these creams seem like they're melting in the skin. They don't actually melt in the skin, but the warmth of your skin does help it distribute and blend out, for sure. So when in doubt, I sometimes just use my finger even to get it to melt in. Okay, so I'm just gonna go over every area by lightly tapping, pressing it in. I love this brush because it covers your face so quickly. Like I can just tap it on all over so fast. So this is my favorite brush for beginners because you can easily buff on that first layer instead of using a more detailed brush. You can just use this same end for your contour. Man, you guys, I can't talk today. For your color corrector. And then you can use it for your main shade as well. And you can get anything from natural to full coverage depending on how you're using the brush. So buffing motion, remember, will always give you the thinnest amount distributed. So small circles, that'll give you natural coverage. If you want more full coverage, I always recommend color correction first, buffing that in, and then going back in with your main shade and this brush to just kind of tap on like I'm doing here to get medium to full coverage. And full coverage just means you're gonna use more of either of those shades depending on your face, obviously. If you have darker points, you're gonna need more color correction. And if you just have a little bit to color correct, you would use more of your main shade. But I'm keeping it light, okay? Always just tap in. You can always build up this makeup in thin layers, but the key is thin. You don't want it to look heavy or cakey, so keep it thin. So for me, I like to do my color corrector, main shade, get a good amount of coverage on those areas I have hyperpigmentation and rosacea. So now I'm all kind of evened out. That way, when I go in with my contour, it's not gonna pull red or orange on me. And it's also not going to accentuate any kind of dark spots I have. It's gonna give me more coverage in my contour areas. So I'm going for medium coverage today. That's gonna help. Now, if you have even more, like I didn't really apply much highlight at the top of my head because I'm gonna apply my contour along the hairline and underneath my cheekbones. But this is kind of my problem area. That's why I'm layering highlights Then I'm gonna go in with my contour. This doesn't bother me, so I'm just gonna use my contour. Okay, everybody's face is different, so you can use the shades depending on what will work for you. If you have a lot of hyperpigmentation there, you might need to use your color corrector main shade there, and then go in and make sure you're pressing on your contour. So when it comes to contour, I'm always using the detail brush. I'll be honest, I don't apply my contour with anything else because I feel like, not all, but most of the brushes really tend to lend to swiping. And I'm like, swipe or no swiping. Anti-swiping this makeup at all times. It only leads to issues, less coverage, streaking, patchiness. I always fully recommend pressing on contour and even using the pressing motion to blend out if you have anything that you're trying to not uncover. So for me, I have dark spots and rosacea through here. So when I go to apply my contour, I'm gonna tap in, okay? Then I'm going to press, okay? So from this imaginary line from the top of the ear to the side of the mouth, okay? I'm gonna use that end that I only got my color on half the brush. I'm just gonna kind of lightly tap to about the corner of my eye to distribute that color. Kind of like I'm cupping my cheekbone. You can almost see it, right? You wanna get right in that hollow. If anything, you wanna go a little bit on the bone instead of ever going a touch too low. Just a little bit too low is gonna suddenly cut your face in half here, drag your face down. The whole purpose of contouring is, well, at least your cheekbones, is to lift this area, make it look more defined and chiseled, right? So I'm not swiping at all. I am simply pressing, so it's not gonna move that color I already placed. It's gonna blend out easier, and it's not gonna blend all away. I feel like one of the biggest troubleshooting issues with contour is that people are like, oh, it's not dark enough, I can't see it. I can wear almost every contour color we have, and I'm much darker than those mid-tone shades. I can still wear them. It's just most people blend them too much. And it's because, you know, we're putting this stripe on the side of our face, and then we're like, okay, we want it to look natural, but we don't want it to look like a stripe. So we blend and we blend, and most people just do this. And then suddenly you look and you're like, I can't see my contour. That shade's too light. It's not the shade, it's the way you blend. If you just tap and don't over blend it till it's gone, like this shade is pretty dark. Both of these are, okay? Way darker, dark for my skin tone, but I could still blend this away so you can't see it because our contours blend out very easily, okay? So they are meant to be blendable, but it's all in how much you're blending. So blend it until you feel comfortable. And then if you're like, okay, that's still too much, just pick up that blush brush that you just used and just start tapping. You see how it can easily just kind of blur those lines. So if you don't like a defined contour like I do, it comes in with time, I promise. Like the more you contour, the more you're gonna like to be able to see it. But I get it. When I first started contouring, you couldn't see it, mine at all. So just kind of tap, okay? Don't do this. Don't go back in with foundation even. You don't even need more highlight. Just whatever's left over on the brush, and the brush will kind of blur that until you got a nice fade, okay? So it should be fading in. We don't want to have a lot of color here in our smile lines. We just want to have that natural looking shadow. I don't know if you can see with this lighting. Okay. And then we do the same thing on the other side. So tap, tap, tap. Color on half the brush. Use that side down. We're gonna start up at the ear because the most product is obviously gonna go where you touch your face first. Don't ever touch your face here first. It's gonna be so hard to blend. Remember, we want this area to be nice and blended in without any harsh stopping point. Blending into the hairline is so much easier. So touch your face up here first, and then start kind of bringing that product down. I can tell I dipped in a lot on this side. So if you have to, even if you have still left over on your brush, wipe off a little. It's okay. Wipe it off, then go back in and start blending. Again, we're just gonna tap. I'm kind of pulling the brush upwards as I tap so that that color blends up, not down. We never wanna blend downwards. Okay, if it's still not blending enough, just take your brush and kind of lightly feather upwards. That can also give you a better blend, okay, without moving too much product underneath, right? Okay. Remember, you always have this brush if needed to gently blur. Okay, if you blend too much and you want more definition, all you have to do is then go back in with a little bit of highlight and you can carve it out even, okay? You can even make it look more defined after the fact, okay? It's all in personal preference, right? Okay, same thing for the forehead. This one, I don't care so much about getting it on the full brush because I have a large forehead. I can go pretty far down, okay? So I'm just gonna kind of press it along the hairline. Okay, and then we don't want this line where our scalp is. So we always want to blend up into the hair. Okay, and then down our forehead. So unlike our cheeks, which can be defined, we don't want any definition on our forehead. We want a natural ombre, like it's framing the face. We don't want any harsh lines on the forehead. That just looks like you forgot to blend. Okay, and we can even blur those, all of the lines a little bit more once we get to the perfector step, but for now, I feel like it is far easier to blend with your brush than to do all of your blending with the perfector. In my opinion, the perfector should be to remove excess. It will blur those lines as well as it's pulling off excess product, but it will take you far longer to blend with this than it would with this. And I feel like once you blend with this, then this is just kind of like a nice magic eraser tool that can make sure it's perfect once you get to that step. Same thing with jawline. We go up under the jaw, not on the side of the face. And we always pull down the neck so we don't have any kind of weird lines where we're not matching. Okay, and this can really disguise jowls or this area. You just have to, as I talk, just have to apply it where you want it. I tend to just pull it down everywhere. Okay, let's do a quick nose contour, really simple. I'm just gonna use that straight line of the detail and just kind of tap right into the edge. So I just get it right on that. Can you see that line? Okay. That way I can just simply look in the mirror straight ahead and go where my nose starts curving downward right there and draw a nice little straight line and then repeat. Okay. Then I'm going to go into the other end, dip in again, and I'm going to kind of connect the dots anywhere I missed up to the brows, kind of blur that line a little bit, and then do tip of my nose and then a touch underneath my lip. This will make your bottom lip look a little bit more full. Okay, key is making sure you don't have any harsh lines there. And then we will blend out our nose once we get to our brightener step. Let's go ahead and brighten. It has been a really long time since I've used this brush to brighten. I've been very light-handed lately on brightener. In fact, I haven't been brightening even sometimes. Like sometimes I just skip it. But when I do a nose contour, the key is brightening. Like you can't skip the brightening step because contour is just part of part of a nose contour. The real magic happens when you use that brightener. So I'm gonna pick up the buff brush. So this brush, I have a love-hate relationship with. I love this brush for brightening. I feel like it even is a great substitute for the powder brush, and you can use the larger end, similar to how I use this powder brush to press on our vanilla dust. But I feel like clients always have issues with using this for contour, or if they're new to the makeup, I don't recommend using it for highlight. It is very much a more full coverage brush. If you tap in to the creams with this brush, you're gonna pick up a whole lot more product than if you tap in with something with a lot like looser bristles. These are very dense and it picks up a lot. So it is a more full coverage brush, but it's all on how you use it. So I do like the small end for brightening, but you gotta be careful, don't swipe. And this brush totally lends to swiping, and people just wanna kind of do this action. And like I said before, swipe or no swiping. All of my fellow moms that had a kid that watched Dora knows what I'm talking about, right? So, okay, we're gonna go in with this, and I'm just gonna go right there at that inner corner and kind of tap, okay? Okay, I'm gonna go down that nose, and I'm gonna kind of skip this region because we don't wanna distribute a bunch of a brightener shade there, because brightener is always way lighter than your skin tone, right? I mean, that is the purpose of a brightener, is to be able to brighten those areas, and it's too light for you, okay? So the only way we can get it to really look good on the skin is to layer it over your main shade that actually matches your face, okay? Those shades that are too light will always emphasize texture depending on application and placement. So I recommend avoiding anywhere you have texture, whether it is pores through here, or you have texture. A lot of people have texture here, sometimes on the chin area, and obviously under the eyes like me. So I'm just gonna kind of skip the entire under eye and hit this bone right here, okay? Now, a lot of people show brightener out here. Again, if you have texture there, do not place it there. It's just gonna make it look more emphasized. I do not put it there because that is a problem area for me. So kind of go as far as whatever works for you. And I just kind of go right through this triangle, and you can tell how much lighter that is. It definitely gives me a brightening effect, but it looks very heavy, and it is emphasizing texture until I get to that perfector step. But it is brightening the face how I want it to, okay? So I'm gonna repeat on the other side. Okay, I'm gonna put a touch on my chin, Cupid's bow. I am going to skip this region today because I can tell I'm having texture issues there. It's okay, it happens, right? I don't wanna emphasize anything that I don't need to, right? I'm gonna use my finger and attempt to go right down those two contour stripes. I'm not very good at, okay, just put a little bit right there. Okay, the more you apply of your brightener, the more it will emphasize texture. So if you keep it very light-handed, which is why lately I've just been using this or this end, so the detail or the blend brush, and just kind of barely tapping it and then using the perfector to pick up excess, you're gonna have a much more natural looking brightener. It's gonna emphasize less texture. It's just gonna sit better on the skin, okay? This is going to look heavier, right? And it is gonna give more coverage because I built up 3 shades there. So it does cover my hyperpigmentation better, but it's a balancing act between how much is too much texture and how much is enough coverage, and it's a personal preference thing. So now I'm gonna go in with my perfector. I like to wait till this step till it looks too heavy in my opinion, and then I can easily get it to look like skin again based on this. So I'm gonna go ahead and tap all over, just kind of pounce this anywhere I put anything, because it can blur those lines like before, like I said before. Okay, I can tell I did not blend in my chin at all. It helps if you kind of use the brush to press it in before you, like I said, this doesn't blend as easily as a brush will. Okay, and then I'm gonna concentrate this anywhere I'm prone to creasing. Okay, since I went to medium coverage, that means I applied more product than when I do a very light hand. Okay, so more product on the face means it can easily move. Well, it can move more easily, right? So can also look heavy. So we're gonna concentrate this anywhere where you're prone to creasing, or it looks heavy, or we need to remove excess. And I'm gonna constantly move around my perfector until I feel it warm up on my face. And that way I know it's done its job, right? Okay, and then I'm gonna lightly go over my nose contour just so it looks natural. And there we go. Once you've done the perfector step, I recommend doing a quick analysis of your face, because this one will pick up excess. Like you can probably see how much that did pick up. If it picked up too much in any spots that you were wanting more coverage on. So mainly I'd say blemishes, hyperpigmentation, anything like that that makeup just doesn't like to stick to as easily. Then you want to do a quick analysis and see, okay, do I need to kind of layer up a little bit? This is when I like to spot treat, meaning I use that multitasker. And let's see, go back in with the color corrector. Sometimes I just use my finger to then tap on more of that main shade, make sure it's nice and covered and matching. And you don't even have to go back in with that perfector unless it looks cakey. Because if you're building up too much, it can look cakey, especially if you're using too much of your main shade. Make sure you're using that color corrector, then just a touch of that main shade to stay matching. If you have to touch like a blemish, just kind of be very strategic and light-handed with this, and then immediately set it in place with a powder. Okay, since our creams don't set unless you set them, powders are by far the best way to set, in my opinion, to get them to not move. Okay, so I'm gonna go in with the powder brush. Like I said before, the large end of the buff brush is really similar with that angle. It's not exactly the same, but they're both very dense, and I feel like they both work really well to pick up not too much powder. The biggest issue with using this technique and applying so much brightener like I did, because I color corrected, used my main shade, and then used my brightener under the eyes, is that if you still have too much under the eyes and then you apply too much powder, that's what equals cakiness. And we want to avoid cakiness at all costs. Under the eyes is the most prone to looking cakey, dry, textured, all of those things. And powders are one of the biggest reasons why. So a lot of people, I understand, are very anti-powder because they don't want to age themselves. But in my opinion, I cannot do my under eyes without using a powder. I will get creasing no matter what. Our eyes just blink way too many times a day. And in order for me to get the coverage I like under my eyes, I have to use that technique. So I have to use this powder in order to set it so that it will last all day. And I never have creasing or my under eyes looking like the darkness is starting to shine through during the day, ever. But I gotta set it with powder. So I immediately have to go in, make sure I have no creasing, and I didn't. I was good. So that means I used the perfector enough. If you are blinking and then you look down and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm already creasing, you didn't use the perfector enough. or it wasn't not been prepared correctly. If it's too damp, it will just pull off your coverage. So if you use a perfector and then you're like, my under eyes are shining through, your perfector's too damp. If you didn't pull off enough, you need to use it a little bit more, or your perfector's too dry. There is a sweet spot, which is why I preach how I prep mine perfectly every time. Okay, so I'm just gonna tap. I'm not gonna pull, I'm just tapping. And look how much it like helps blur the under eyes as well. So our vanilla dust is great for under the eyes because it's a very finely milled powder, meaning if you have more mature eyes like I do, you can totally wear it. It's all in just not applying too much. That is, I simply touch it and that's enough for my entire under eye. If you swipe, that is way too much. Like, I know you can't even see it there, but for me, that would show texture. So it's finding your sweet spot for how much powder and the right powder. I don't feel like any one powder is gonna work for everyone, in my opinion. It's just like anything else. Your skin is very personal. It's very different than everyone else's as well. You have to find a powder that is finely milled for under the eyes and that will stop you from creasing and not too heavy so you look any older, crepey, cakey, all those things, right? It's a delicate balance. Now you can tell on my eyes, look, I already have creasing. See that? So I'm gonna use a brush, okay? You can also just use your perfector to get off excess, but I'm just gonna kind of blend it out. And then I do use lots of powder on my eyelids, okay? I wanna make sure I set, so I do swipe for my eyelids, I just tap in for under my eyes, okay? Now, I'm not gonna set anywhere else on my face because I'm not done, but I wanted to set that before I had any creasing. Okay, friends, are you guys ready to try the newest shade? So, I'll admit, when I first saw the picture online, I was like, ooh, pretty. And then I got it and it looks way different. Story of our lives, right? So this is why I do these videos. It looks so much lighter, okay? And it is still a beautiful shade, but as you can imagine, on somebody with my skin tone, it could really wash you out really fast. So let's do some comparison swatches first of all. So this is the new Audrey. Okay, she is a matte, so a satin. And she is a beautiful, cool, undertoned pink. Okay, so my first thought when I saw her was that she looks like R1. Where are my Demi girls at? So, if you don't know, this is R1 and this is Audrey. It's pretty close, right? So, R1 is a demi shade meant to filter hyperpigmentation. Obviously, the formulations are not going to be the same because the demis are much drier, more dense. But you can tell, our demi shade's a lot lighter, okay? But very similar tone, okay? Let's see. Let's grab my lip and cheeks real quick. My second thought was, how different is it than Petal, okay? So as of right now, I would say Petal was our lightest shade we've ever had, and definitely cool. Okay, so this is Audrey and this is Petal. They look so different in the tin though. Okay, so Petal is a gloss. Let's put it right next to it. And Petal is darker. That kind of surprises me. Yeah, and yeah, I guess you can tell. I feel like Petal is the color of my nails. And Audrey's still lighter. Okay, so there you go. There's Petal, Audrey, and R1. Let's see what else could be similar. Let's try Carousel. Now Carousel is very sheer. Okay, this is what it looks like in the 10. It looks darker, but I know how sheer she is. Yeah, I mean, she's darker, but again, very sheer and a gloss. Very different. I bet that would be really pretty over Audrey though, because Audrey's a matte. You guys know I like my glow. I mean, Petal would probably too. I think Petal would almost cool it down even more. I consider Carousel even cool, even though it's Swatches way warmer, but Petals or Carousel's the one that has that like really icy shimmer. So that's what makes it look cooler. What else is close? Candy is going to be way darker. I can just tell. Yeah. And Candy's is still a pretty light shade, and I'm testing nails and I can't pick up anything. So this is Candy. Okay. Gosh, we don't have anything really similar. I would say Petal is the closest, but still not the same. Okay, so it is much lighter, much more white. I don't want to say white. It's obviously a pale pink. It's very blush. Blush is a good word to describe it. But it's a beautiful shade, but it can be difficult to wear depending on your skin tone. Now, if you are fair, you will be able to wear this no problem without any of these tips and tricks. Okay, you will like it. Okay, the problem comes when you are using a color lighter than your natural lip tone. Okay, then it can very easily look chalky or wash you out. So I'm going to show you some ways you can wear Audrey. First of all, I'm going to show you on my cheeks so you guys can see what it looks like with nothing else. Okay. Okay, so if you look closely, it almost kind of like brightens that area. Do you see that? Because it's lighter than my skin, okay? Granted, a lot of the lip and cheeks are lighter, but not quite this light. Petal does a very similar effect. This one doesn't look as pigmented because it is so light, but it is a very pigmented shade. So pigmentation can look sheer on darker skin tones because it's so light. It's not that it's not pigmented. It is pigmented. It is not a sheer formulation gloss like this one at all. It is pigmented. It's just a light shade. So on darker skin tones, if you were to apply this really heavy, it's going to look lighter on your face. And that's when it can look chalky or too light. Okay. So I don't know if you guys can really see on camera, but this is what I recommend if you are darker like I am. So I wear Mango Sandy. I'd say if you are sandy or above, you need to use this color almost like a brightener on your cheeks. So I would recommend using it almost in this region with another blush. So I'm going to show you. Let me try it with, I'm going to show you just Boardwalk, something very natural. Of course, I'm going to pick something glowy, but that's personal preference. So I'm going to put Boardwalk on kind of like along, right on top of that contour, okay? And then right there on the apple of my cheek to give a little bit of flush of that color, okay? Then I'm gonna go in with Audrey, and I'm gonna use the blend brush, and I'm gonna tap it right up on the highest point of my cheekbone. So almost like an illuminator, but not really. If you're dark enough, this would show up light enough that it would almost be very similar to how we use Demi Colour as illuminator right there. you could brighten with this. That's how light it is. So I'm just gonna tap it on the top part of my cheek so that this part is almost lifted. Okay, so kind of like how I used my brightener all the way up here. Okay, this is gonna do that same effect. Remember, light lifts. Again, totally dependent on skin tone. So on this side, I'm just gonna go ahead and leave this Audrey all over the cheek, and I'm gonna show you how I'd warm it up slightly. So here, it looks good on camera. I feel like in person though, it looks slightly chalky right here. So I'm gonna show you, what do you do? Do you guys remember from my warm cool video? What do you do if a color is too cool on you? You add bronzer. Bronzer saves everything. So I'm gonna use a little bit of just Bella and Glow, and I'm almost gonna kind of use it right okay. So I kept that Audrey here and still here to kind of lift that. So this side is gonna have Bella, and then this side has no Bella, just Boardwalk, and then Audrey on the top of my cheekbones. Do you see the difference? Bella is amazing. So I'm gonna put a little bit right there just to balance that so I don't have bronzer just on one side of my forehead. Okay, and instead of illuminator, I'm gonna just use the Solstice Balm, which I feel like is similar. I mean, this is sheer, obviously. Can't really see it, but the tone at least. So I feel like that would add the glow that that doesn't have. So I'm just gonna pop that right there on the top of the cheekbones to add a little bit of light catching reflection. Okay, and let's do some lips real quick. So, like I said, first of all, I'm gonna show you guys, okay? This is what happens if you apply a shade too light. I mean, not a good look, guys. Not a good look at all, okay? I don't recommend trying Audrey this way. I don't think it would look good on anyone like this. And I don't think anyone has lips this light, all right? So, how do you wear it on the lips? Okay, I'm gonna use a little bit of balm. I'm going to line my lips with Astoria. Then use any color you like. So let's use something, what should I use? I'm gonna use a little Madrid. Just so you guys can see. The effect better. Okay, use something a little bit darker, then you can use something lighter in the middle and get that ombre look. Okay, it will also make your lips look bigger. Can you see that? Now you guys know me, I need some gloss. I'm gonna put a little bit of balm on top. Balm to save the day. I can't stand that feeling of matte, but this won't change the color. But I can get that ombre lip look I like. Okay, I say if you want a little glow, I'd say carousel over that too for a little shimmer. Ooh, pretty. Brows done. I already feel better. Let's show another way to use this look. So I get asked all the time, what are the best lip and cheek shades for eyeshadow? Yeah. Okay. So you always want to make sure it's matte. Please don't put glosses on your lids. I can only imagine the gooey mess. It's not going to probably last very well. It's probably going to crease. But our matte shades are amazing. If you are able to wear creams on your eyes, they are like the best time saver in the world. You can use contours, kind of carve out your eye or the bronzer, and then use a little bit of a lip and cheek on the lid. Now, we've never had a lighter lip and cheek matte like this before to be able to use as a lid shade. I'd say up until this point, my favorite ones, let's see, all my mattes are here. We're always Frenchy, Nude, Plum, or Sandstone. Rosewood I've used on mine, but that was a limited edition shade. And then now that we have Madrid would even be pretty. Or, ooh, Saint Tropez, the new shade. I bet that would be really pretty too. It's another light one, very similar to Havana. So this shade, let's see if there's any eyeshadows that are similar. I would say this, I'd say off the top of my head, maybe Paris. Aha, what? Very similar. Okay, so there you go. If you like to just swipe a little cream on your eyes and be good to go for eyeshadow, this would be a really good one. So let's try it. It's really pretty. Okay, so very similar to Paris. Again, if you have eyelids where you can, I'd say you can use, this is the detail brush. Another good brush would be the smudge brush, would probably be a little bit easier. But you can really like pack on the color. I love having a lighter color on my lid. It kind of opens up the eyes. Now, you guys know I'm a big fan of 2-color looks and carving out the crease. So what would I use with this? I would use, if I was doing all creams, I would go in with, where did my palette go? Either Bella or my contour. So let's do a little Bella, shall we? I love Bella on the eyes. It's so pretty. I mean, how quick and easy would that be for an eye look? Especially in the summer. Okay, and I feel like since the Audrey, took me a second, is so cool, that Bella just balances it so nicely with the warmth. Is that not pretty? Oh, it's so pretty. Now, because I know I'll get asked, for all my fellow mature eye problems that tend to have creams crease no matter what they do, you can set this, obviously. So if you can't wear creams on your eyes at all, I would just pick up just a touch. Takes 2 seconds just to take a touch of Paris right over it. Okay, and then similar to Bella, I would say Bubba or Sedona. My 2 faves. Okay, and just kind of set it real quick and you'd be good to go. Okay, as always, if you're feeling washed out, Bella solves everything. I feel like anyone can wear a shade this cool as long as you balance it with some warmth. So wait till you do your bronzer at the very end, and then once you're done, see if it's needed. If you naturally have a lot of warmth, you might be good. Or you might be like me and feel like, okay, I need a little bit more to kind of balance those lighter, cooler tones. I feel like every time I do cool lips, cool eyes, I need a little bit more warmth for that magical balance, right? Okay, I'm gonna lock and load it. Whew. There you go. Okay, there you go. That was Audrey. We used it 3 different ways. Well, a couple different ways on the cheeks, lips, and even eyes. I really do like this on the eyes. This is really pretty. So if you are fair, you won't have to use it multiple ways. You can use it however you like, but this is a great one. It is limited edition while supplies last or through May. I'm curious who all has snagged it. How do you like to wear it? If I missed any ways, please share down in the comments below. If you are needing help with your Seint 3D foundation, or you're needing a color match because you are ready to finally try it, my color match request is in the drop box below the video. Just fill that out. Tell me how you like to wear your makeup, and I will shoot you your own customized match just for you. Be there as your own personal makeup artist to help you learn all the things, troubleshoot, and give you all my tips and tricks. Thank you guys so much for being here and watching, and I'll see you next week. Love you.